Hey Jack, you ever wonder how filmmakers manipulate time? Well, come along, let me tell you.
So, what's the plan?
Right.
Movies are uniquely spatial and temporal. Today I will examine how filmmakers stop, expand, compress, and manipulate time in order to develop and exhibit the narrative, among other things. Whether we're talking about flashbacks, montage, jump cuts, reverse motion, bullet time, or just the way a filmmaker cuts the scene. Filmmaking is about the manipulation of time and space. Movies are made up of pictures spun at us at 24 frames per second. In this clip, Tarantino varies his frame rate and jumps in on the action as he riffs on the oft-used slow-mo walk. By filming at 48 frames per second and playing it back at 24 frames per second, we add drama to the action. Or, as Kubrick does here in A Clockwork Orange, by so-called overcranking and by adding a classical soundtrack to this otherwise violent scene, the actions become almost balletic, as if it were a dance. Their white outfits, kind of unconventional tutus that don't leave much for the imagination. If a freeze frame, or perhaps reverse motion, is one end of the spectrum, the other end of the spectrum is this ultimate jump cut in time. Not to be confused with the jump in we saw earlier in Kill Bill. This jump, perhaps more known for this match cut you see here, literally and figuratively leaps forward in time anywhere from 4 million to 40 million years. In Empire of the Sun, Spielberg magnificently manipulates his frame rate as well as his camera moves to dramatic effect to tell the narrative. Speaking of the narrative, a film's structure is another tool to tell the story and manipulate time. Groundbreaking films such as Akira Kurosawa's Rashomon and Orson Welles' Citizen Kane, and postmodern filmmakers such as Quentin Tarantino have long manipulated the story structure through varying modes of narrative, such as the chain narrative, the database narrative, the forking path narrative, or, as we see here, the reverse narrative. The entire film is shown in reverse order as the protagonist attempts to put back together the pieces. No discussion of time in film is complete without considering the montage. Here in Hot Fuzz, we see the post-MTV montage featuring fast-paced, kinetic, frenetic action, utilizing close-ups, extreme close-ups, dolly zooms, steadicam tracking, whip pans and wipes, summarizes and condenses the action in an exciting way. On the other end of the spectrum is this montage from John Landis, where, matching the subject matter, a very dark scene in an otherwise light movie where Bill Murray kills himself over and over again.
Did you sleep well, Mr. Connors? Would you like some toast?
101 minutes on screen and repeating the same 24 hours over and over again, anywhere from 8 years to 35 years to 10,000 years, depending on different analysis. Bill Murray does, in fact, over the course of the film, become a maestro on the jazz piano, fluent in French literature, an expert ice sculptor, prescribes treatments for medical patients, and, perhaps most challengingly, becomes a better human being. Cut to the tone and the pace of the action, this scene juxtapositions itself nicely to the following scene from Shaun of the Dead, where we montage future possible events that have not happened yet.
Take Pete's car, go round Mum's, go in, deal with Philip. Sorry, Philip. Grab Mum, go to Liz's, pick her up, bring her back here, have a cup of tea, and wait for all this to blow over. Perfect.
In The Untouchables, Brian De Palma initially elongates time, drawing out the scene with lingering, overlapping shots that serve to build the suspense.
Sir?
The modern montage sequence was born of Russian pioneer filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein's montage editing techniques. And nowhere is it more evident than in this scene that is an homage to the Odessa Steppes sequence in Eisenstein's Battleship Potemkin. Eisenstein's editing technique was more concerned with creating conflict by using overlapping action, repeating shots to, as he said, break free of the confines of time and space. In this scene from Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull, he begins by varying his frame rate. This puts us inside the heads of the fighters.
He's hurting him now. He has LaMotta on Queer Street, holding on. Well, certainly that was one of the most damaging evidences of punching that you have seen in recent years. Come on! Apparently tired.
And then again, Scorsese ramps down time, less through frame rate manipulation, but more through camera moves, sound, and exaggerated directing of the actors. And then, in a volley of shots, Scorsese throws a kitchen sink at us, violating 30-degree jump rule, violating temporal continuity, varying his framing, even putting the camera on its side. All of this serves to represent the sheer violence of the action. Also borrowing heavily from Eisenstein, as well as the French New Wave movement, Arthur Penn's Bonnie and Clyde. This stylized violence, where screen duration and actual duration are at their most extreme, helped liberalize the rules on screen violence in Hollywood, opening the gates for such filmmakers as Peckinpah and Tarantino. In this iconic scene from Sergio Leone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Leone stretches out the scene to almost ridiculous proportions. Sergio builds the tension and maintains our interest by alternating the framing, moving closer and closer to the action. As the music builds, we move from long shots to mediums to close-ups to extreme close-ups. The scene is also a study in point of view shots, over the shoulder point of view shots, eye line matching, point of view matching. You can actually follow each character's shifting eyes around the circle and the corresponding point of view change. Keeping in mind that a film is just a series of still frames, in what was stunning at the time in the Wachowski brothers' The Matrix, they effected an extreme transformation in time and space by changing camera angles, that is our point of view, to move around the scene at normal speed while the action slows down. This 3D rendition of a 2D shot was done by placing 120 still cameras in an arc around Keanu Reeves, acting as a sort of freeze frame capable of suspending time and motion. In Richard Kelly's Donnie Darko, a movie about time, about bending time, about moving through time, and about repeating time, as well as parallel universes and giant bunny rabbits, we get a sense for what we're in for as the filmmaker uses various techniques to manipulate time within the movie. In this final sequence we'll look at today, Richard Kelly also throws the kitchen sink at us. As Donnie travels back in time, he uses flash frames, whiteouts, superimpositions, graphics, freeze frames, reverse shots, slow-mo, frame within a frame to once again show the manipulation of time within a film. So, what'd you think, Jack?